What's up? 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 Yo! Yo, 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 chill, 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 chill. I join. We're not gonna be playing Gorilla Tag today, y'all. We're just gonna be reacting some stuff. We peek? Heck yeah, but hold on, I'm dealing with some technical stuff. Everyone's got away, everyone's got away. Hold on. Hold up, chill. Chill. Gotta pull up a stream on my phone. And then I also have to do some technical stuff, because I'm not sure the sub count's gonna work, guys. Let me see. Thank WW Comic, what's up, PSA, Card Cake. What's up, Devin? What's up, Liam? What's up, friend? What's up, Liam? I said your name right. What's up, Super J? Gameplay. Okay, how is this gonna work? Please, bro. I already said I'm not gonna be playing right now, at least. Okay, where the freak is my thing? Okay, sub count is like not working right now. Dang, I should have figured out this earlier. Captured it. Put a full screen on it. Yeah, I'm gonna put you in timeout, boy, if you keep spamming. Alright. Someone slam this guy, bro. Alright, let's react.
What are you, my mom? She laughed back. I'm way too young to be your mom. My dad grabbed a knife and cut open the cardboard box from Amazon. He took out a flat black disc and held it up like a trophy. This is RoboVac. He's going to vacuum for us. He plugged the black wire into a socket, and it instantly started sucking up all the crumbs from the carpet. I turned red with anger. Dad, vacuuming our house is the only thing that makes me any money. He shrugged. Sorry, kid. You've been replaced with AI. I clenched my fists because I was 2 Saturdays away from having enough money for my dream dirt bike, and that thing had to go. The second he drove off, I grabbed the old vacuum and challenged RoboVac to a race. I pushed the vacuum around the room until my shirt was soaked with sweat, but
double tap the screen.
RoboVac cleaned in calm little circles, and every circle it cleaned was another $10 it took out of my pocket. I screamed, ugh, how did you even win? I sprinted outside and threw it into the pool. When I saw it under the water, I patted myself on the back. You cooked, but it beeped and made its way back to the grass. I watched it blink up at me as it spoke, I am indestructible. But I rolled up my sleeves, glared, and said, I'm not going to stop until you're finished. My neighbor's kid was watching over the fence the whole time, and he yelled, yo, could that thing clean our house? My face lit up because that was my light bulb moment. I posted an ad on Facebook offering to rent it out to neighbors, and I put the price as $80 per hour. I laughed evilly because I was renting it for even more money than it cost, and I knew my dad would love this idea. By Saturday, there were 4 neighbors on my porch waving 20s, and RoboVac was already humming across our neighbor's living room. Sometimes when it sees me, it blinks up and says, I am indestructible. But now I just laugh and show it a photo of my dirt bike. Yeah, and now you're on payroll. Sorry, AI, but you've been out. I handed the keys to my Lambo to the valet. Be careful with this. Of course, sir. She won't move an inch. But as I walked into the restaurant, my phone buzzed with a dash cam alert, and I opened a live feed of the valet flying the Lambo down the street. My jaw dropped. I immediately waved a taxi over, jumped in, and pointed through the windshield. Follow that car. I borrowed that car from my father-in-law. If I can't return it in one piece, I'm cooked. The driver looked at me, nodded, and took off behind it. My eyes kept jumping between the windshield and the feed. He swerved my car through traffic, then pulled over, and I sighed, thinking he was just going to park it. But then a guy in a hoodie hopped into my passenger seat and planted his sneakers on my dash. My grip nearly cracked my phone. The taxi driver glanced at my screen. Wait, that's live? I nodded, and he leaned into the wheel, weaving between lanes like it was his car out there. The valet swung into a drive-thru, and I watched him order a milkshake out of my window, while my jaw slowly tightened. He revved my engine at the next red light, and every rev, I gripped the seat harder. But then we pulled up right beside the Lambo. I was close enough enough to knock on my own window, but the stupid valet was too busy showing his friend how my seats reclined all the way back. The taxi driver looked at me. I just shook my head. Not yet. Then the feed showed him dropping his friend and turning onto a familiar street. I grinned because he was looping back to the lot. I told the driver, cut down that side street and drop me at the valet stand first. I straightened my jacket, held my phone flat against my leg, and waited. A minute later, the Lambo rolled in. I watched him wipe my seats with his sleeve and spray cologne over everything his friend touched. Then he jogged over, dropped my keys into my hand, and smiled. She never moved an inch, sir. I closed my fist around the keys, but just as I was about to show him the recording, a voice came from behind him. She never moved an inch? The valet spun around, and my father-in-law was standing there, holding up his own phone. Both me and the valet went white in the fact at the same time. My father-in-law plucked his keys out of my hand. My car, my dash cam. Who do you think gets the alerts? I'm suing whoever drove it. I leaned in close to the valet. Turns out, I'm not the one who's cooked. Behind me, the taxi driver honked twice on his way out. I handed the keys to my Lambo to the valet. Be careful with this. Of course, sir. She won't move an inch. But as I walked into the restaurant, my phone buzzed with a dash cam alert, and I opened a live feed of the valet flying the Lambo down the street. My jaw dropped. I immediately waved a taxi over, jumped in, and pointed through the windshield. Follow that car. I borrowed that car from my...
Update the live sub count.
I laid down in the hammock I'd spent all afternoon setting up, enjoying the breeze, when I felt a pair of chubby fingers gripping my fabric. The neighborhood fat kid was pushing me out of the hammock, gasping, "I want it," already out of breath from just talking. He pushed me off as my face hit the dirt, and he slowly climbed into my hammock, his gargantuan stomach pointing roundly at the air as he laid down. His massive weight was already bending the trees, so I got up and told him, "Bobby, you're gonna snap my hammock." He went to say he wouldn't, but that's when the tree cracked. The hammock snapped, and Bobby crashed so hard I felt a mini tremor. I facepalmed, but Bobby just lay on the dirt in the same relaxed position with my hammock trapped under him, completely unbothered that his weight just snapped an oak tree. I kicked his flabs. "Bobby, get up," but he waved his arm. "Nah, too much effort." He placed his hands over his stomach and rolled his head back, closing his eyes. I grabbed my hammock and pulled as hard as I could, but immediately realized this was something King Arthur couldn't pull out. Bobby had now started drifting to sleep, so I tried moving him myself, but my back only shot pain in the process. I looked at my hammock collecting dirt under his butt sweat and knew there was only one way. I climbed into my dad's excavator, my hands shaking with rage. "Last chance, Bobby. Get up or you're getting excavated." But Bobby was peacefully snoring in the dirt. I pressed the lever and scooped Bobby up. I raised him in the air, but just as I was about to drop him, I heard him yell, "Wait, leave me here. This is like a hammock." My jaw dropped and I climbed out, but Bobby was already snoring again in the arm of the excavator. I shook my head, then set my hammock back up. Now both of us were
I gotta update the thing. Alright.
enjoying the breeze. I laid down in the hammock.
Crazy.
My best friend John pointed at a wasp nest and said, "Tom Brady moment. If you hit the nest, I'll give you $50. Then my other friend Ivan slammed his hand on the table. "Double it. I'm in." We tiptoed over to inspect it, and up close it was like two basketballs hanging off a tree branch, easily the biggest nest I'd ever seen. John scooped up the football and said, "Hit it and make it inside without getting stung," then tossed me the ball. I stood there staring at it, because $100 for one throw and a sprint was easy money. But when I looked back, they were both already crouched behind the patio chairs, and something felt off. If this went wrong, nothing was stopping them from locking me out. I lined up my throw, but a single wasp buzzed past my ear, and I dropped the ball like it was on fire, and both of them fell out laughing behind the chairs. I picked it back up, wiped my hands on my shorts, took a breath, and nailed the nest dead center. It hit the grass, and the sky turned into a black cloud, so I took off for the door. But when I looked back to check the swarm, I plowed straight into both of them, and all three of us ate grass. I scrambled up first, shoved them back down, and dove inside, locking the door behind me. If anyone was getting locked out today, it wasn't gonna be me. They slammed against the glass, screaming, "Open the door!" while the swarm caught up and they danced around swatting at their own heads. I gave them 3 seconds, then flipped the lock and they fell inside, slapping wasps off each other. John was on the floor, crying, laughing because Ivan got stung right on the butt. I held out my hand and said, "I did my dare, pay up," and they each slapped a 50 into my palm. My best friend John pointed at
Subcount update.
the massive barbell fell straight onto my neck, and I felt my windpipe nearly collapse. Above me stood the biggest, baldest bully in the gym. "Oh, sorry, bro. I totally thought you had it under control," he said with a sarcastic chuckle. "But while you're down there, I want you to think about something. I don't want to see any more featherweights like you coming into my gym. I'm tired of looking at your beta body. This gym is for alphas only." My vision started to go spotty, and I was seconds away from losing consciousness completely. As my vision was about to go completely black, I was able to unlock the weights on one side of the barbell. They slid off the bar, and I was able to throw the rest of the heavy metal to the floor. I staggered to my feet. What the hell, man? You said you would spot me, and then you just dropped the weight on my neck. The bully picked me up by the collar of my shirt. You're damn right I did. And if the barbell didn't break it, I guess I'll have to do it myself. As I hung with my feet 10 inches off the floor, I searched desperately for a way out of the situation. A weight cable with an empty hook dangled above the bully's head. It was attached to over 500 pounds in plates. I acted instantly. I reached behind the bully, hooked the cable to his shirt, and then kicked the pin from out of the counterweight. The bully shot up with 500 pounds of force and bashed his head on the crossbar. He collapsed to the floor, shaking every piece of equipment. The bully was taken out in a stretcher. I got a job as a personal trainer at the gym, and months later, the bully came back in a wheelchair with shame on his face. He looked up at me with guilt and said, "I'm sorry for what happened a few months ago, but I need your help. I compressed my spine, and without a trainer, I may never walk again." I looked down with mercy and said,
First check subcat. Hold on. Wait. Now you go back.
"In here, everyone's an alpha. We start training tomorrow." The massive barbell fell straight. The train I was riding nearly took a man's hand off as it blew past the station where it was supposed to stop. This was the 5th stop in a row the train missed. Not only that, it was picking up speed. Something was wrong. People on the train started to panic and children started to cry. I looked at the subway map. We only had 5 more stops before the end of the line. And if we couldn't stop, it would be the end of everyone on the train too. I checked the doors and windows, all locked. The only way out was an emergency exit hatch on the ceiling. I scrambled up to the train's roof. It was my only option if I wanted to make it to the driver's car in the front. The train shot down the track like a bullet, and the wind blowing in my face made it almost impossible to keep my balance. I made my way to the front, facing death with every step. I could hear the screams getting louder in the train cars below me. When I made it to the front, I found the conductor slumped over the controls inside. I checked his pulse. Nothing. He was gone. I looked up from the driver's corpse and out the front window. In the distance was the dead end of the last stop, and we were closing in fast. Just then, I heard a voice shouting from an overhead radio. "Train 27, what the hell's going on in there?" I grabbed the radio. "This is Train 27. Our driver is dead. Tell me how to stop this thing." The radio crackled back. "The emergency brake. Look for a giant red button." I found the button, but it was locked behind a plastic box with a keyhole under it. I looked out the window again. We were maybe 30 seconds away from death. The radio started crackling again, but the signal was breaking up. I could only make out the words key, box, belt. I looked back down at the dead driver. There it was, a small silver key hung on his belt. I ripped it off, unlocked the box, and hit the button. The train came to a dead stop with only inches of track left. Everyone else on board was shaken, but still alive. The train I was riding nearly took a man's hand off as it blew past the station where an old woman stormed up to my work crush and threw her groceries onto the conveyor belt. $7 for eggs? Why is this so expensive? Zoe scanned them without blinking. "I don't set the prices, ma'am." The woman leaned over the belt. "Change the price, or I start screaming." I puffed out my chest and swaggered over, because this was my chance to show her I was a masculine man. But 4 steps in, a customer grabbed my arm. "Where are your freaking bread loaves? I've been looking for freaking ever. Actually, can you just walk me there?" I sighed, and while I led her there, I heard a crash by the checkout lane. I spun around, and the woman was jumping up and down having a tantrum, and my manager was jogging over to the crime scene. I shoved a baguette at the customer and ran to save my queen. When I finally reached her, the woman was talking to my manager. "Your cashier called me a hag and threw my eggs on the ground." I gasped because she was lying, and Zoe's jaw dropped. "I never touched her eggs." My manager turned to Zoe. "Can anyone confirm your side of the story?" I raised my hand to defend my lady. I watched the whole thing, start to finish. Zoe is innocent. The woman's mouth fell open, and my manager put his hands on his hips. "Yeah, right. As if I'd believe you, the one who has a crush on her. We all know it." Zoe blushed, and I turned red. But before I could respond, my manager turned to the woman. "Corporate policy. The customer's word is final, so I will take action on whatever version of the story you give me." I clenched my fists, because I knew I had to do something fast. I pointed at the woman and lied. She threw the groceries at Zoe's head and slapped her until she fell to the floor. Her head snapped around. "Lies. I just knocked the eggs down. That's it." I grinned because my plan had worked perfectly, and my manager folded her arms. "So you destroyed your own eggs and blamed my cashier. You need to leave." She screamed while security marched her out the door, and Zoe laughed. "There's the scream she promised me." I laughed and she kept going. "So, you came from the bread aisle, then walked to where I was." My ears went hot. "How did you know where I was the whole time?" She giggled. "Same way you know where I am every shift. I like you too, dumb An old woman stormed up to my work
How
crush
do you
and
call
threw
it?
her
Don't
groceries
watch
onto
it,
the
bro.
conveyor
It's
belt.
tough,
$7
okay,
for
bro?
eggs? Why is this so expensive? Zoe scanned them without blinking. I don't set the
actually tough.
prices,
It's
ma'am.
definitely
The woman leaned over the belt. Change the price, or I start screaming. I
Dang,
puffed
bro,
out my
like,
chest
you
and
know,
swaggered
shy,
over,
little-
because this was my chance to show her I was a masculine man. But 4 steps in, a customer grabbed my arm. Where are your freaking bread loaves? I've been looking for freaking ever. Actually, can you just walk me there? I sighed, and while I led her there, I heard a crash by the checkout lane. I spun around, and the woman was jumping up and down having a tantrum, and my manager was jogging over to the crime scene. I shoved a baguette at the customer and ran to save my... I took my son to bring your kid to work day at the airport site, and the...
Let me first check sub count. Alright, nice.
The second I looked away, he was already climbing up into a forklift. He had both hands locked on the controls, sitting on the edge of the seat, grinning through the windshield, and I had no idea what he was going to do next. The forklift beeped and lurched backward. I ran towards him and started screaming, "Buddy, brakes! Find the brakes!" He found a lever instead, and the forks shot straight up, scattering a row of cones. A man dove out of the way. My foreman was red with anger and screamed, "Whose kid is that? Get him off my site!" The second Alvin saw me running, he slammed it into gear and shot the other way, weaving through pallets like a go-kart. He whipped around a stack of shipping containers, and I lost sight of him. My heart pounded because Alvin had no limit to what he would do for fun. I sprinted around the aircraft shelter and stopped beside 20 frozen men in safety vests, all staring up. Alvin had the forks jammed under the belly of a white plane, lifting it clean off the tarmac. Then he eased it back down, both wheels landing on the ground softly, and he threw both arms in the air. "Look, Daddy, I'm working just like you." He kept going, playing the same way he played with his toy planes. I climbed up, grabbed the controls, and helped him land the next one. He tugged my sleeve. "Look, Dad, now you're watching me work. Now it's bring your dad to work day." I took my son to bring your kid to work day at the airport site, and the second I looked away, he was already climbing up into a forklift. He had both hands locked on the controls, sitting on the edge of the seat, grinning through the windshield, and I had no idea what he was going to do next. The forklift beeped and lurched backward. I ran towards him and started screaming, "Buddy, brakes! Find the brakes!" He found a lever instead, and the forks shot straight up, scattering a row of cones. A man dove out of the way. My foreman was red with anger and screamed, "Whose kid is that? Get him off my site!" The second Alvin saw me running, he slammed it into gear and shot the other way, weaving through pallets like a go-kart. He whipped around a stack of shipping containers, and I lost sight of him. My heart pounded because Alvin had no limit to what he would do for fun. I sprinted around the aircraft shelter and stopped beside 20 frozen men in safety vests, all staring up. Alvin had the forks jammed under the belly of a white...
Wait, I keep watching it, bro. I'm like so interested that I'm like...
I took my son to the carnival for his birthday, and when I asked what he wanted, his answer wasn't what I expected. With a huge smile, he said, "To save people, Dad." I kissed him on the forehead for being a sweet kid, but then a scream ripped through the crowd. Above us, the Ferris wheel burst into flames, and everyone erupted into chaos as fire rained down on us. I grabbed for my son's hand to run, but the stampede slammed into us and ripped him away from me. I screamed his name, spinning in every direction, but all I could see was smoke and fire. An alarm blared through the smoke, and as I ran, my foot caught on something. My son's little jacket, trampled and singed. My heart slammed as I snatched it up and shoved my phone in every face I passed. "Have you seen this boy? Please, I need to find my son." No one stopped. They just streamed past me toward the exits guided by firefighters. Then a firefighter's voice tore through the smoke. "Everyone out now! The Ferris wheel's about to collapse." But a woman grabbed my arm and pointed toward the flames. "That boy? He ran that way, screaming at everyone." My whole body shook. If it collapsed, it'd kill him. So I ran straight toward it. The heat seared my skin, but I didn't stop until the Ferris wheel buckled and crashed down around me. A beam slammed across my legs, and I screamed as the flames burned through my sleeve into my arm. I dropped against the ground, sobbing. My son had wished to save people, and I couldn't even save him. My vision blurred. Then I felt hands clamp around me and pull me through the smoke. Firefighters laid me on the grass and strapped an oxygen mask over my face as I cried, certain my son was gone. But then, through the haze, I saw a small figure in a firefighter's jacket walking toward me. "Dad!" I thought I was hallucinating, until my son dropped to his knees beside me, safe, an oversized firefighter suit swallowing his body. A firefighter knelt next to him and gripped his shoulder. "Your son pulled the fire alarm and helped us evacuate everyone. He even told us you'd still be inside looking for him. He didn't get ripped away from the crowd. He left to save everyone." My son beamed at me. "My wish came true, Dad. Best birthday ever." I took my son to the carnival for his birthday, and when I asked what he wanted, his answer wasn't what I expected. With a huge smile, he said, "To save people, Dad." I kissed him on the forehead for being a sweet kid, but then a scream ripped through the crowd. Above us, the Ferris wheel burst into flames, and
check sub count. I'm gonna do this after everything. After 11. One more, guys. One more.
The moment I heard Dad snoring, I crept downstairs and took his motorcycle keys. I was 13 and had been binge-watching videos of motorcycles hitting 150-mile speeds and desperately wanted to ride one. My dad's Kawasaki superbike sat in our garage while he cleaned it every night. I asked him, could I ride it? But he laughed and said, this thing is my baby and you've never even driven a car. You could die, or even worse, destroy my bike. So one night, I had enough and snuck out. My heart was pounding as I pulled the covers off the Kawasaki. I started working the keys, but I couldn't turn it on. Finally, I twisted the handlebar, and the motorcycle lurched forward way too fast for me to control. I twisted the brakes, and it slammed to a stop so fast I went flying. I hit the pavement and bruised my elbow, and through the window, I saw my dad getting out of bed. I instantly panicked and jumped back on the Kawasaki. I twisted the throttle and slowly took off, turning out of the driveway before he could see me. My heart slammed, and I gripped the handlebars so tight my knuckles turned white. But then I hit 20 on the speedometer. The bike still wobbled, but I was gaining control. I felt the wind in my hair and laughed, ready to go faster. But then two guys blocked the road ahead. I twisted the brakes to slow, trying to look cool doing it, but they immediately grabbed my collar. What's a little squirt like you doing with a Kawasaki? They ripped me off and threw me to the ground, and my heart dropped as they started climbing on. No, wait, that's my dad's. I reached for the bike, but their hands were already on the throttle. See, you never chump. They took off, doing at least 80 immediately. I put my head in my hands and sat on the curb crying. How would I ever tell this to Dad? I walked the 10 miles home, legs shaking because Dad spent his life savings on that bike. When I walked inside, Dad was already awake at the kitchen table, pacing with his arms above his head. Someone stole my bike. I gulped and slowly waddled over, ready to confess. But then I saw the newspaper on the table. 2 teenagers die in a motorcycle crash on a stolen Kawasaki. Photos of Dad's motorcycle and the 2 teens who took the bike from me. I covered my mouth in horror as Dad grabbed the newspaper. They deserve to die for stealing my bike. Whoever steals my bike deserves to die. 2 hours later, the officers returned the bike. Its front end completely caved in. I watched Dad hug his Kawasaki in tears and snuck upstairs. I'd never tell him the truth. The moment I heard Dad snoring, I crept downstairs. Me and my family were walking through Times Square when suddenly every billboard had my face plastered across it. I froze in the middle of the sidewalk, staring at my headshot on the billboard next to my weather app invention. The honest app that tells you the weather in a rude way. It's raining, idiot. My family started laughing so hard they were bent over and clutching their stomachs. I can't believe it. Everyone found out about your stupid app and now you're getting publicly clowned. People stopped around me, pointing up, phones out, laughing, and none of us had a clue why my face was really up there. I was so humiliated that I almost went back to New Jersey, but then I saw a giant screen going through the app. The screen showed the app saying, "You would know that it's sunny if you just opened your curtains for once." My dad grabbed a police officer on the sidewalk and pointed, "Look, that doofus on the screen is my son. We always told him to stick to college, but he wanted to be a public laughingstock instead." My face went hot, and I wanted to grab my dad's arm, because if he was telling the cops, I knew I'd always be remembered for this, no matter what. But the police officer put his icing-covered fingers into a fist and noogied my head. "It's okay, son. Some of us just weren't meant to make it in life." I turned around to walk into the crowd, ready to disappear and never come back. But when I did, the crowd started circling around me and grabbing me. A girl shoved her phone in my face. Oh my gosh, it's actually him. It's the guy who made the weather app. The giant screen above us flipped to a headline, "#1 app in the country." They were never making fun of me. My app was going viral. The man beside me was laughing, and he showed me the app. "Dude, your app called me an idiot this morning, and it's the realest thing anyone said to me in years." My dad awkwardly scratched his head. We always knew you could make it, son." I put my hand on his shoulder. "Careful, Dad. Honesty's kind of my thing now." Me and my family were walking through time.
I love that. I love that.
I went to a Marriott ballroom for econ extra credit and ended up running from a man in a 3-piece suit calling himself Maximus Masters. Noah signed our names on the extra credit sheet and pushed open the doors. Free steak and a grade bump. I'd sit through my own funeral for that. A woman in a navy blazer was on us before the doors swung shut. "Welcome, future entrepreneurs. I'm Crystal." She slapped name tags on our chests that read "Guest of Honor" and steered us to the front row with a hand on each of our backs. "Where's the bar?" Noah asked. After the presentation, Crystal sang and disappeared into the crowd. 60 people sat around us, wearing the same wide smile, staring at an empty stage. Nobody was talking. "I don't see anyone from our class," Noah whispered. "Maybe we're early." "Dude, the room is full." The lights cut out and techno music shook the floor. 2 fog machines fired smoke across the stage, and a man in a 3-piece suit walked through it with his arms over his head. "Who wants to be financially free?" The room exploded as people shot out of their seats, pumping fists. We didn't move. "Is this extra credit or a hostage situation?" Noah whispered. For 40 minutes, Maximus paced the stage, ranting about yachts and cellular metabolism powder. Slide after slide behind behind him of him holding stacks of cash. A guy 2 rows back stood up sobbing about how he used to work at Subway. "It's a pyramid scheme," Noah said. I nodded and started to stand, but Crystal materialized behind us. "Leaving? You haven't seen the compensation structure." She pressed down on my shoulder. "Sit." We sat. When it finally ended, she pulled out an iPad and asked which package spoke to us. "We're just here for class credit," I told her. Her smile cracked. "You're scared of success. People like us retire at 30. The whole room turned to watch. Maximus walked over, sweat soaking through his collar, and put a hand on each of our shoulders. "Gentlemen, let me introduce you to the man who changed my life." The fog machines kicked on again. An older man in a white suit stepped through the smoke onto the stage. Noah's hand clamped around my forearm. "Dude, that's our prof." Professor Jacobson smiled at me from the stage. The same wide smile Crystal had. The same smile the Subway guy had. The same smile every single person in that room had been wearing since we sat down. He tapped the microphone twice. "Welcome, gentlemen. Let's talk about your extra
I'm
credit."
gonna join
We
Code
ran.
Cyclone.
I went to a Marriott ballroom for
Tag
econ
right
extra
now,
credit
but
and
we're
ended
still
up running
gonna-
from a
we're still
man in a
gonna watch
three-piece
it.
suit calling himself
I'm just gonna,
Maximus
like, have
Masters.
everyone
Noah
muted
signed our
properly.
names on the extra credit sheet and pushed open the doors. Free steak and a grade bump. I'd sit through
I'll
my
just
own
turn
funeral
off-
for
turn
that.
off-
A woman
turn
in a
off.
navy blazer was on us before the doors swung
But I
shut.
will be in
"Welcome,
Code's-
future entrepreneurs. I'm Crystal." She slapped name tags on our chests that read
check
"Guest
this.
of Honor" and steered us to the front row with a hand on each of our backs. "Where's the bar?" Noah
I'm currently
asked.
Code's
After the
Cyclone
presentation, Crystal
right now.
sang and disappeared into the crowd. 60 people sat around us, wearing the same wide smile, staring at an empty stage. Nobody was talking. "I don't see anyone from our class," Noah whispered. "Maybe we're early." "Dude, the room is full. The lights." I was setting up camp alone in a forest when I heard explosions nearby and smoke hit my nostrils. I followed the noise and found a teenager laughing, lighting fireworks into the trees, filming himself on a tripod, live on TikTok. "This is going to go so viral," but the forest was bone dry, and one spark could burn the whole thing down. "Stop! You're gonna start a fire." "Relax, bruh. I know what I'm doing." Then he lit another, and the firework arced up, landed in a bush, and flames tore through the leaves.
30
My balls
likes.
dropped because we
Let's
had minutes before this
freaking
forest went
go.
up in flames. I stomped at the flames, screaming for the kid to help, but he swung his camera toward the fire, grinning. "Yo, this is even better content. I need more fire." The fire climbed a tree behind me, and families came sprinting past, coughing and screaming, dragging their kids from the smoke. I looked back and saw my own tent swallowed in flames, everything I owned gone. I yelled, "Is going viral worth this?" I grabbed his arm to pull him out, but he yanked away. "You don't get it. I have to do this."
Yeah, you don't
And he
get it.
stepped toward the fire for a better
I
shot.
Devin.
The smoke was so thick my eyes burned and every breath became shorter. If I didn't run now, the flames would swallow me too.
Ooh,
So I turned to run,
swallowing
but a
too.
burning tree cracked
Guys,
and
forget
crashed
fully
down
lights
behind me,
without
and
screen.
through the flames I saw the kid's arm shoot up, a hospital wristband on his wrist, as he screamed for help.
Dang.
My body screamed at me to run, but my feet wouldn't move. I couldn't let him die, so I turned back and ran into the flames.
very
I grabbed
heroic.
his arm as he cried, a hospital band melting
How
against
you
my
exact-
palm.
that's-
I
this
picked
is
him up
exactly
as I
happening.
ran away from the fire, and I
Nobody-
yelled, "Why would you do this?" He lifted his shaking wrist, tears streaming. "My little sister has cancer. They told us if we don't get money for her
What?
treatment soon, she'll
So how-
die."
what?
He looked down. "I just don't want her to die. I'm sorry." My throat closed,
So
but
how
before
would
I could
burning the
respond,
forest down?
firefighters and police charged in. "You've got the little arsonist who did this for views. Criminal. We saw his live," an officer yelled, but the kid just lowered his head as they slapped cuffs on him. Everyone will call him a monster, but I knew the truth. I was setting up camp alone in a forest when I heard explosions nearby and smoke hit my nostrils. I followed the noise and found a teenager laughing, lighting fireworks into the trees, filming himself on a tripod, live on TikTok. "This is going to go so viral," but the forest. I was at work when my boss yanked me into his office by my collar. "Bring a real llama to this office in 2 hours, or you're fired." He grinned,
A
because
real
we both
llama?
knew it was impossible. "The CEO gets here at noon. There's no way you'll pull this off, so I'll start packing your desk right now." I looked down at my phone,
Everyone
and
watching,
my lock
double tap the
screen lit up with my
screen.
2 dogs.
No!
If I lost this job, they'd be on the street with
No!
me. I wasn't about to let that happen, so I had 2 hours to pull off
Yeah,
the
I'm
impossible.
gonna
I
become
bolted out of the
Spider-Man
office and
for you
onto the
guys.
sidewalk, sweating. There's only one place in New York City with a llama, so I flagged a cab and sped uptown to the zoo. I ran to the front gate and begged the keeper, "Please, I just need to borrow a llama for 1 hour." He laughed in my face. "Absolutely not. I only had 40 minutes left." I thought of my dogs living on the street, and I knew I couldn't walk away
Spider-Man here?
empty-handed. So I
Guys, which
snuck
Spider-Man
around to the back
favorite?
pens, unlatched the gate, and grabbed a llama by its rope, but it spit a wad of green slime across my face. Before I could pull
I
it
used to
away,
have
a
a
keeper
girl-
spotted me.
I used
"Hey,
to have
he's
girl
stealing a
type of
llama!"
medical
So I
doctor.
ran, dragging the llama
That
down
makes
the
no sense.
street as people dove out of the way. No cab cab would take an animal, so I hauled it onto the subway. When I got to the office, I threw open the doors, but my boss was standing at my empty desk, grinning, tapping his watch. 1 minute late, you're finished. My heart shattered until a scream ripped through the office behind me. I spun around, and the llama had broken loose, trampling desks and spitting on every person in its path. Then it reared back and launched a glob of slime right into the CEO's face. My boss stared in horror, and a vein bulged in the CEO's forehead as he stormed straight toward us. Who is responsible for this? But the llama trotted to my side and pressed its head against my arm, calm. Before he could speak, I pointed at my boss. He told me to bring a llama or I'd be fired. The CEO's eyes went cold, and he jabbed a finger at my boss. Clear your desk. You're fired. Then he looked at me. You can keep your job. I walked into the doctor's office for a sore leg, but the second he saw me, he decided I needed surgery. I got wheeled away with no explanation and was put under while still asking questions. I woke up 10 hours later and saw 4 police officers standing around my bed. I tried to move, and that's when I noticed I was handcuffed to the railing. The doctor who prescribed the surgery was standing in the corner tapping his foot. I freaked out. What's going on? And the lead detective walked over and pulled out an X-ray taken of my stomach during surgery. I turned to the doctor. Why were you operating on my stomach? I have leg pain. He looked around frantically, but the detective immediately shoved the photo in my face. A small rectangle was at my spleen. Your surgeon found this sewn into your abdominal lining. The detective held up a huge bag of fentanyl, 130 grams, a trafficking charge carrying a 20-year sentence. My jaw dropped. I've never touched drugs in my life. The detective rolled his eyes, but that's when the surgeon jumped in completely unprompted. Just arrest him already. The evidence is clear. I looked at his red face and the sweat on his forehead and wondered why he looked so nervous. The detectives pulled out handcuffs, but that's when I remembered something. I'd had an X-ray on my stomach last week at a different hospital. There was nothing in my body then, but as soon as I said this, the surgeon snapped up. X-rays aren't reliable, he shouted. They probably missed it. The detective looked at the surgeon carefully, then back over at me. We're taking you in. They uncuffed me and cuffed my hands behind my back. At the station, they kept asking about drugs. I kept telling them I didn't know, and after 5 hours, a prosecutor told me they were filing charges tomorrow. I was looking at 20 years minimum. I didn't sleep at all, and the next morning, the detective who arrested me walked in. He unlocked my cell and placed a binder in front of me. I opened them, expecting to see the charges. Instead, it was official papers telling me I was free to go if I signed here. I did it immediately, asking him why I was free all of a sudden, and that's when he showed me his phone. Surveillance footage from my surgery, showing my doctor stitching the bag of fentanyl into my abdomen, but also a GPS tracker. The cartel was after him because he has their fentanyl, so he stitched it in you and put a tracker there to lead them astray. I suggest getting it removed immediately. I walked into the doctor's office for a sore leg, but the second he saw me, I cracked my knuckles while loading up my League of Legends game. I only had 10 minutes until my bedtime, and was only one win away from hitting Diamond, so I wasn't letting anything stop me. I typed in my login faster than ever, then the 2-factor authentication code, and when the terms and conditions box showed up, I quickly hit accept and leaned in to get ready to destroy some 12-year-olds. But suddenly, 3 men stormed in wearing black suits and dark sunglasses out of nowhere. But the game was about to start, so I was determined to keep my eyes on the screen, but one of them unplugged my monitor. So I was forced to stand up and find out what was going on. What the hell? Who are you? Another started wrapping up my wires without saying anything. I immediately turned around and saw my little brother standing in the corner, smiling. I knew he had something to do with this, so I stormed over and grabbed him by the collar. What did you do? He crossed his arms. You're the one who clicked accept. I had no idea what he was talking about, but then he walked me back to the chair, shoved me his phone, and showed me what I had agreed to. One line was highlighted. By clicking accept, you give your entire gaming setup to your little brother Eli. I laughed because there was no way this was real. You're 10. You can't own my stuff. He put his hand on his hip and showed me a photo of his empty piggy bank. I know you stole money from my birthday money to pay for all of this, and I just got it back. Behind me, the last guy gripped my chair and pulled it out from under me. I hit the floor. I got up and followed Eli across the hall. My whole setup was glowing in Eli's room. My game was still on the screen. The one win away from Diamond 1 never got to play, and Eli was already in the chair. He loaded into my game, and he played it like it was nothing. One team fight, an ace, and victory filled the screen. Diamond. Eli leaned back in my chair and finally looked over at me. Thought you were gonna destroy some 12-year-olds? Well, you just got destroyed by a 10-year-old. And as I stood there watching myself getting defeated by my little brother who robbed me blind, some part of me couldn't help but feel impressed. I cracked my knuckles while loading up my League of Legends game. I only had 10 minutes until my bedtime, and was only one win away from hitting Diamond, so I wasn't letting anything stop me. I typed in my login faster than ever, then the two-factor authentication code. And when the terms
Guys,
and conditions box showed up, I quickly hit
5
accept and leaned in to get ready
on
to
our
destroy
goal.
some 12-year-olds.
Guys,
But
we have
suddenly,
to get
3
on the
men
goal.
stormed in wearing black suits and dark
We have
sunglasses
to get
out
on
of
the goal.
nowhere. But the game was about to start, so I was determined to keep my eyes on the screen. But one of them unplugged my monitor, so I was forced. Logan slammed $1,000 on our dorm table. Tomorrow, we're all going to the airport with no money.
Guys,
the one
we
who can
have-
get to the furthest
we
country
have
wins. It's a
to
college
beat
competition.
our
I
goal
immediately signed the
today.
sign-up sheet because my mom had
If you
never
want to
left the
go,
state
you can click
before,
on the
and this
little
was
card.
my chance to
We
make
need
her
to
dream
beat
of
the
going
goal.
to
We
Disneyland
need
come
to
true.
beat the
I clicked
goal.
the pen and
Beat the
grinned.
goal.
May the best
Beat
man
the
win.
goal.
The next
Beat
morning,
the goal.
all 5 of us
Beat the
walked
goal.
into LAX
Beat
with
the
empty
goal.
wallets, and
Beat the
Logan
goal.
lifted up 3 fingers. We start in 3, 2, 1. I sprinted for the airline counters with money on my mind. Please, I need a free flight to win a competition for my mom. You got me, right? The agent laughed at me. Right, and I'm looking for free Jordans because I don't want to pay for new shoes. You got me, right? He was making fun of me, so I frantically searched the airport because I knew I needed a new strategy. A woman 2 seats down propped her giant suitcase against the charging station and answered her phone. Yeah, Mom, I land in Dublin tonight. Love you. My entire face lit up because I knew Dublin was a city in Ireland, and it was 5,000 miles away. She headed for the bathroom without her suitcase, so I dumped her clothes into my backpack, folded myself inside, and pulled the zipper shut with my teeth.
I'm
10
a
minutes
low-key
later,
play
I
some
was swinging
gorilla
through the
tag.
terminal, slamming into every door frame in
Devin.
California while I was curled up like a pretzel until someone
I
grunted
can't-
and
I
rammed
can't
me
really
into
hear
an
you
overhead bin
tapping
with my
the
knees
tag.
in my eye sockets.
But
By
I'm
the time I
see if I
climbed
can
in, the
auto
group
play.
chat was already flexing. Logan posted a selfie from a party bus to Mexico, and I grinned because I thought I was going to beat him.
I think it's on autoplay for you guys. Or something. Nah, we can't. Oh, freak.
My Uncle Tom's face scrunched up when I asked. Me and my family were walking through Times Square when suddenly every billboard had my face. I cracked my knuckles. Logan slammed $1,000 on our dorm table. Tomorrow, we're all going to the airport with no money, and the one who can get to the furthest country wins. It's a college competition. I immediately signed the sign-up sheet because my mom had never left the state before, and this was my chance to make her dream of going to Disneyland come true. I clicked the pen and grinned. May the best man win. The next morning, all 5 of us walked into LAX with empty wallets, and Logan lifted up 3 fingers. We start in 3, 2, 1. I sprinted for the airline counters with money on my mind. Please, I need a free flight to win a competition for my mom. You got me, right? The agent laughed at me. Right, and I'm looking for free Jordans because I don't want to pay for new shoes. You got me, right? He was making fun of me, so I frantically searched the airport because I knew I needed a new strategy. A woman 2 seats down propped her giant suitcase against the charging station and answered her phone. Yeah, Mom, I land in Dublin tonight. Love you. My entire face lit up because I knew Dublin was a city in Ireland, and it was 5,000 miles away. She headed for the bathroom without her suitcase, so I dumped her clothes into my backpack, folded myself inside, and pulled the zipper shut with my teeth. 10 minutes later, I was swinging through the terminal, slamming into every doorframe in California while I was curled up like a pretzel until someone grunted and rammed me into an overhead bin with my knees in my eye sockets. By the time I climbed in, the group chat was